Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the Professor, Greg Dooley, and the pundit, Steve Clark. Men, take the mic.
It's the Professor and the Pundit with Greg Dooley and Steve Clark, and we never seem to be short of things to talk about. And it's a Sunday morning when we're recording. We might have this out in record time because Greg wants to let a few things off his chest that could be moot by early Sunday evening. So we might have this podcast ready for you in record time. As always, we're proudly presented by Nick Hopwood, who's a certified financial planner, founder and president of Peak Wealth Management. Retire with peak confidence. Visit Nick's website at peakwm.com.
Steve, we've got great listeners. One of our listeners, Ty, I saw was gifted go on the show with Ira and Sam and be a guest host for a day thing
On the Big 1050.
And it's funny because you said Greg wants to get some things off his chest. I suggested to Ty that on that episode in the Big 1050, he treated it as the airing of the grievances. Kind of, here are all my vendettas in life now that I've got this literal, microphone to share. That's how I would use this power.
Things that only Ty cares about?
That's exactly where I was going. It's it's a little bit of what we do here is talk about things we only care about. So I love it. If you are like Ty, let us know that you listen. Tell other people. Rate us. That's how we spread the word. That's how we grow. We're excited. We've had an awesome list of followers during this little interlude here. But of course, we're doing this primarily not only because of the Hoop's success, but also about what we're talking about next, which is spring football. So beyond Bryce, everyone wants to go see number 19 sling it and see how he does. I guess the things I'm looking for Saturday, and I'll be there with bells on, I want to see the crowd size. How many people actually come? What is the Bryce effect? Obviously, that's highly contingent. I mean, in my opinion, on the weather. High, mid, upper 50s. Is it going to rain? I don't know. It's Michigan. The other thing is, the athletic department has done something during the spring games, if you've been around, is they have a no ads inside the stadium rule that is in jeopardy now, by the way. But they've broken that rule during the spring game where they put temporary advertisements up and around the stadium. I'm curious to see if they get frisky with that and or if Champion Circle or the other fundraisers get a little more aggressive with the fan base now that we're moving toward this new era. And by the way, fresh in everyone's mind is why Bryce is here, and Champion Circle had a big, big part in that. So that's what I'm looking for.
What you're saying is, in terms of the advertisement, it's sort of like putting a different drop in the soup and see if anybody notices or see how anybody reacts.
Correct.
It's sort of a pilot, a test.
A little pork in the stew instead of beef.
See if people notice.
Yeah, okay.
The offense is what I'm interested in looking at. I want to see if there's some semblance of a downfield passing game. We know this is going to be vanilla. None of the biggest plays that they're working on are going to be thrown, run, or implemented during this. It's hard to glean a lot from it, but I think people are excited to see Bryce Underwood. I think they're excited to see on-target pass attempts. I think people are excited to see balls being thrown 10 yards past the line of scrimmage. It's not just the quarterbacks that were a problem with the Michigan offense that ranked 129th in total yards out of 134 teams. It was the receiving game and the offensive line. All were not having Michigan type of years. And so I like to see how the receivers are kind of like used in this spring scrimmage. I like to see how the secondary covers, whether they're locked down or whether there's some leakage. And again, I'm saying this with the preface that nobody is giving their A effort in terms of play calling. Players are giving their A effort, but you're not going to see design schemes that are going to make you go, wow, because they don't want to put anything on film.
Yeah, you might see some players around that 105 cut line giving their A-plus effort out there, Steve.
Yeah, you would think so. And then, of course, a big reason why a lot of coaches are deciding not to even have a spring game is it's the actual chance for people to look at some underclassmen to see if they're actually pretty good or not, and then offer them a whole bunch of money to take them away when the spring portal opens up on Wednesday.
You said the downfield passing game. What else? What are you seeing with the receivers?
I just want to see what they're able to do. I mean,
Okay.
First of all, I think we'll be able to have quarterbacks that can throw past 10 yards past the line of scrimmage. But I also want to be able to see if the receivers can actually get open. If we want to take a look at the offense and some of the news and notes that's happened from the past offseason, we know that Bryce Underwood's going to be there, and a lot of people are there just to see him. But quarterback Mikey Keene, who's a transfer from Fresno State, has reportedly not been practicing because of an injury, and that's, certainly some worthy news. And, of course, this gives us a time to see Jaden Davis between last spring and this spring. We really haven't seen him at all in
great
development.
Student athlete.
And a lot of people
we should have a drop for that.
Yeah, I think
great student athlete, which is a little hint there. Go ahead.
It's a little dig.
Yeah, no, it's a tip of the hat to anyone where I mention that, and you can read between the lines there what that means.
Sure.
Yeah.
The running backs, Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, as well as Khalil Mullings, are gone, and the running backs that are here are talented but kind of unfamiliar. First of all, you got Jordan Marshall, who had his coming out party during the bowl game against Alabama. He had an even 100 yards, but had only 20 yards for the season coming into that game. And he was sort of kind of mixed 1A, 1B with Benjamin Hall, who will now be wearing Donald's old number 7. Benjamin Hall slimmed down a little bit for the new offense. And then you have Justice Haynes, who is one of the biggest gets out of the transfer portal. He played for Bama last season, but didn't play in the bowl game either. In his last 2 seasons for the Tide, he had 9 touchdowns and over 600 yards rushing. Some had Haynes as the number 1 running back in the transfer portal last year.
Guess what? When you have a returning what might be star in a highly rated recruit in Jordan Marshall, and then you have someone who's a top rank out of the portal who's a little older, guess who's more expensive, Steve? The guy to keep or the guy to acquire?
I'm going to guess the guy to keep.
Its acquisition costs are always higher, Steve, than retention costs in business, in life.
See, I didn't go to business school.
And in football. Yeah, giving someone a nice raise, but that's why people who move and shop jobs, as a strategy, generally speaking, you get a bigger bump from moving somewhere than you would just staying where you are. And that's true in the transfer portal. So
I'm going to go back to the editing room and change my answer.
Call that a hunch. Yeah, go ahead and go back to the
delete Greg's lecturing me.
We might be doing a lot of that after this episode. Go ahead.
Offensively, we know what Michigan wants to do. They want to run the ball. But with new offensive coordinator Chip Lindsey and having a more pass-friendly offense, there's a lot of potential for actually Michigan's running backs to see a lot more catches that we haven't seen from Michigan coordinators in the past. I can't remember the last time that Michigan really used a screen game. Do you?
Yeah, no. And you say that. We have been looking for that, especially with Edwards, right? Like that's what, because we all heard from Sam Webb that he could have been recruited as a top, like highly rated receiver out of high school. That's how good he was, right? And he could throw the ball. I mean, he could do it all.
Everything.
But we didn't really see him do much of that. A little bit throwing.
No, it seems so obvious to people like us that this would happen, and it never did. And they had a number of years to do it, but they chose not to. So I think under Chip Lindsey, you might actually see running backs catching the ball out of the backfield and accumulating a lot of yards. I mentioned the receivers is something I'm looking at. So let's take a look at them. I think the potential star, at least that's what Michigan fans are hoping for, is a transfer from Indiana University, Donovan McCauley. He took a medical red shirt after playing a partial season for the Hoosiers. He was an honorable mention All Big Ten receiver in 2023. But kind of seemed to fall out of favor with Kirk Cignetti in 2024. And McCauley says that he's very motivated, got a lot to prove, and he's definitely the player that Michigan fans are hoping for to be a difference maker because of his length. He's like 6'3", 6'4". He'll play the X spot, and his track record of doing well at Indiana under the previous regime of Tom Allen.
Great. I don't buy Kurt Cignetti's act. Maybe we'll get some insight from McCauley. I don't think he'll badmouth him, but I just don't buy it. And they've had a great line of receivers there before Cignetti, right? And that'll be good to see.
So no, it's absolutely true. I've not heard anything from Donovan McCauley badmouthing Kurt Cignetti. This is me doing my research on why he didn't play last year, what the insiders were saying, and why he left.
I don't buy it. I don't buy you, Cignetti. Kind of like PJ Flack. Go ahead, Steve. Who else we got? Because we got some other guys coming.
You have Fred Moore, who's coming back. Samaj Morgan. He says they're practicing more with 3 receiver personnel, which is great.
Ding, 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 student athlete.
Got you. All right. And then you got Peyton O'Leary. Uh-huh. And then another player transferring from Michigan.
Again.
This is again. Second time,
Amorian Walker. Yeah,
Yes.
so this is a speedy guy. This has been quite a tale with him. So he's left twice. He came back, obviously. They started him at receiver. He was, I believe, a Notre Dame commit before he came here originally. They started him as receiver. They moved him to DB. He got roasted by the guy you mentioned previously, Peyton O'Leary, in the spring game last year, which was interesting. Then they moved him back to receiver when he came back, and he never really did anything. He's gone again.
He got one big catch against Washington in the middle of the field, and believe me, we got excited anytime there was a pass thrown for over 10 yards.
Yeah.
And that was one of those things. And I feel bad for the guy because he just didn't make it. And this is one of those guys that has been talked about so much locally and for little reason when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I have a hunch that he's got all the tools, but execution is just missing a little bit on the receiver side, and it just never worked out. And you can't drop balls in practice or otherwise and expect to play at Michigan football.
Offensive line, Greg Crippen, more than likely penciled in at center. Gio El Hadi penciled in at left guard. He played mostly right guard last season, but left guard is his more natural position. It's where he played with the Joe Moore award-winning Lions back in the early part of this decade. Brady Norton is the new guy, a transfer from Cal Poly, and Andrew Sprague. Those two are battling at right tackle. Evan Link played his best games against Ohio State and Alabama. He was a redshirt freshman last year. He's working at left tackle, again, his more natural spot, while also playing both guard spots. Word could be that Nathan Afobe could be seeing some starting time at right guard, and the coaches certainly see the upside with 5 stars Andrew Babaloa and Ty Haywood, but I just wouldn't expect them to be starters just yet. But it's early. You never know what could happen in August.
All right, so it should be exciting. I hope the weather's good. Again, we both like the fact that it's later in the year, and I like to put out a line.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, for the game.
Are you handling the
don't worry about
the transactions?
Don't worry about it. Okay. I built an app. You know who's been busy, Steve? Our friend from Saline, Coach Kim Barnes-Arico. All the coaches live in Saline. Coach Kim Barnes-Arico just when I declared that, boy, I think I like women's hoops because they're not really in this game of all this transfers and NIL as much and all these things. She's been busy in the transfer portal, Steve. She's got 3 people coming in from across the country, a freshman transfer from UCLA who's got a fantastic team. We got a woman named Ashley Filkonich from Bucknell. She was the Patriot League Player of the Year, averaged almost 20 points and over 8 rebounds, Steve. Played all 31 games. And a forward from St. Joe's. We're adding a little bit of size. All these guys are 6'2" or higher, which in the women's game puts you in that forward range, which we need. And she's not stopping there. I happen to know, you're probably not going to hear about this in time, but there's a fundraiser at the Blue Leprechaun this week for NIL from the U of M Club of Detroit. I think you're going to be able to meet the team, maybe some of these new players if they're here in time. So there's some exciting stuff going on in women's hoops, and they are playing more of the chess game, I guess, that Dusty May and company are playing. So, by the way, a little birdie told me that Jordan Hobbs went to the WNBA Combine, the senior that we talked about who had the epic game against Iowa State. Heard she killed it at the Combine, Steve, and teams are talking. Wouldn't that be cool?
That's good.
Wouldn't that be cool to this story to keep going?
Yeah, I mean, I think they have 2 rounds in the WNBA draft.
Yeah,
just like the NBA.
So I don't know where this is going to go because it's always, it's not obviously the same and salary wise and impact wise, but she clearly wants to play, and if she has that opportunity, by the way, talk about ding 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 as far as a student athlete. This does not matter. Whatever she does in life, this is a leader, and she's going to have success. But if she can start that out with playing in the WNBA, amazing. And Steve, I saw a ESPN way too early poll for next year. Michigan number 16 women's hoops. Solid.
Who may be ranked higher, men's or women's? Going into the season.
That's a great question. I think they did a pretty good job there, but I'm a believer. And I think they're gonna do better than that in the end. I'm a believer. It's a big question, as always, is where do these new pieces fit in? But I guarantee you've got 2, I'll use a word affectionately, gym rats. in Silas Ords and Olivia Olson. They are going to be even better next year, and they were both outstanding national competitors this year. What's Dusty been up to?
Well, Dusty's continuing to take people out of the transfer portal. You mentioned Kendall Dudley, who is from UCLA. Michigan getting a men's player from UCLA. Perhaps they carpooled up on the way to Ann Arbor.
In a tiny little car, or was this a big car to fit this kid? What's going on?
He's 7'2", Adai Mara from UCLA, originally from Spain. He's got a big wingspan, as you can imagine. He's definitely a rim protector. His offense, kind of a work in progress. He averages about a point for every 2 minutes he plays, which isn't a lot. He's like 13 minutes per game. His go-to is a baby hook. I think when you have a Morez Johnson at 6'9", and if Yaxel is here, Michigan's going to have a solid front court. No doubt about it. Then they would have to, work on some of their guard acquisition if they decide to do any more of that. Dusty May, by the way, was on with Sam Webb with the MichiganInsider.com. I just want to give a quick plug to that. It's available on their website. It's subscription-based, but I think it's definitely worth the listen and the payment for. But just to give
I will check it out, and I am a subscriber. So I missed that. Yeah.
Just a quick takeaway on the NIL portion of all this. A huge difference from this year to last year in being able to recruit the transfer portal. Part of that is a better track record, obviously, of going from 8 wins to a Big Ten tournament championship to a Sweet 16 berth. That type of credibility has led to future donations. And the big kind of headline in this that Michigan NIL and RevShare, Dusty says, can compete with second-round contracts from the NBA. We talked a little bit about this last week, about how much NIL has improved at Michigan basketball. And Dusty's here to tell you, it says, if you're looking like a second-round pick, we can pay you second-round NIL money or RevShare money, and then you can go to school and perhaps better yourself for next year. And he's already making his pitch.
That is a good pitch, and guess what? He is largely responsible for the ability to do that pitch. From everything I hear, this guy can ring the bell in another way, which I mean he can raise the money. So good for him.
Michigan's going to have a different roster makeup, and once again, Dusty's saying, without actually saying it, isn't pigeonholed to a particular offense or a particular defense or a particular roster makeup.
Yeah.
He sees what he gets. He is not Rich Rodriguez. He sees what he has, and he'll tailor-make an offense and defense around the people he has.
And fair to say the national pundits buy it.
Pundits.
And again, the way too early poll, one of them had Michigan as high as number 5, Steve. But you know what's never way too early? Getting the IT support you need when you need it before little problems become big problems, Steve. You hear me now?
I do.
And all problems in organizations, Steve, are people problems. No matter what anyone tells you. I got this from John U. Bacon. I teach this in my leadership class. So when you need IT support, when you need engineers, project managers, consultants, do you need a new CIO? Call Maverick. Head to MaverickTechnologyPartners.com. They do it all. MaverickTechnologyPartners.com. Thank you for the partnership, my man Tim. Support them. Let them know you heard about them on The Professor and the Pundit.
And let's go to some more college football talk. How about this, Greg?
Yes.
If you want
well,
to.
the quarterback from Tennessee. Yeah, Nico. Can you say his last name, Steve? You're good at this.
Nico Iamaleava.
Okay. He did not report to practice. Where is he? Where is he? He's gone. He's not, they have those ops people check in everybody. He's gone. What's he doing? Reportedly out renegotiating an NIL deal. Unhappy with some level of conversation or promise he thought he had. I'm not coming to practice. And it blew up everywhere.
It's stunning. It's the first time essentially somebody is held out in college football, looking for a bigger contract, making it again college football more and more like a pro game, looking more and more like these are employees and not college athletes who happen to be going to a college and playing for their particular university. Reportedly had a high NIL deal going into this season at $2.4 million, but it's not the highest. After he signed that deal for $2.4 million, Carson Beck left Georgia for Miami, and that NIL deal is worth $4 million. There's a couple of other guys, too. But Wes Rucker from GoVols 24/7 says the quarterback, Iamaleava, couldn't have been a better teammate. was having dinner with the quarterback's coach and other quarterbacks on Thursday night. Everybody was having a great time, couldn't have been a better teammate, and the next morning, he ghosted everyone. And some of his teammates feared for his safety because he basically went dark. And then Tennessee, 24 hours later, they're having their spring game. Afterwards, they did something shocking. They went old school. Josh Heupel making the announcement after the spring practice about the quarterback and where he is, and said what basketball fans say when a visiting player fouls out. See ya! And what's fascinating behind this, just besides the idea that you have a college player acting like a pro guy with agents holding out, looking for more money, making the other team blink, and ownership, which in this case is the Tennessee Volunteers Athletic Department, said, you're out. On top of that, their athletic director, Danny White, has been very visible out in the forefront, being very transparent to Tennessee fans at how they will be taxed. They instituted last fall a 10% talent fee to season ticket holders. He charged people $10 to come to see the spring game. And then after all of that has been done and everybody's made their payments, they said goodbye to the highest paid member on that team, with Josh Heupel expressing his inner Bo Schembechler, saying no one is bigger than the team.
Yeah.
And then every college coach in America rushed the stage, lifted Heupel on their shoulders, and poured orange Gatorade on him.
Well, yeah, they sure did, because the coaches are looking for some power in this process, and they don't have a ton of it right now, and he just flexed on everything. And as we evolve through this, there is no collective bargaining agreement for what, say, rookies and everyone else can make. There is no public data. There are contracts, but they are written by agents and other people, that have all kinds of different kinds of terms. There's no uniformity. So you're going to see like this, and some of these contracts, as it is with any line of work, are shaped on experience and priors and what else is happening. How do we conduct our risk? That's why law books and laws and rules in Congress become pages and pages and pages, where you're going to have some of the standard language.
Even worse, Greg, is that sometimes these contracts are written by agents who don't even know the laws and the rules of how things are being governed.
Oh, and they're unscrupulous. Like, they're negotiating deals for what is effectively income and charging 15%, which is really what you charge to book someone on the Dr. Pepper commercial, not for their salary in the NFL, right?
Yeah.
I'm just saying. So, yeah, there's a lot of that going on. And so, like Georgia, they had a problem with people speeding in cars and causing problems. They instituted penalties for speeding and tickets like that. I know some NFL teams institute charges automatically if you're late into the building when you're supposed to be there. It comes, boom, it docks you. We'll see more penalties. We'll see more pullback. We'll see players who have payments coming up who enter the portal that will get taken out. We're going to see more and more of this. And I don't know if it's employee status, right? But probably some type of conversation around standards and rules. And in that negotiation, the coaches are going to go, sure, okay, here's some protections, here's some guidelines, but they're going to ask for something else like changes to the transfer portal and things like that. So I do think we're heading towards some kind of conversation. I don't know if it leads to employee status. It does, it brings up some great questions. So speaking of like a lot of stuff that's going on, Steve, I had a new guest in class, not a new guest, he's actually been in, but happens to be a member of the Michigan football team for the last few years, and he will be playing in the fall. Greg Tarr, the long snapper, and he didn't talk about NIL much or about football. What he talked about was the financial literacy programs that they offer the football players. Get this, the freshmen have a mandatory program that is basically the 101s of finances, taxes, but they also do other stuff like how to conduct yourself in a meeting, their life skills, right? But after you kind of are a freshman or in the program for a while, they actually have a program where they offer an internship during June when they have that off time, where you can actually go and exist at a financial, like a company like Peak Wealth Management, and it's not Peak, but sit with them and actually learn about, ask them questions about things like Roth IRAs. These are all the services that young people, old people need. And who do we recommend to go to find all those things? Of course,
Nick Hopwood.
Peak wealth management. I half wonder if Nick's ever been interested in like mentoring, a football player or someone who's in this world, because there's a lot of people in the Michigan football family, in quotes, that are interested in helping out, being interested in football. And most of the people, though, who are involved with the football players do this as a pro bono service for the football team because they think it's great for them in life. I've even heard that there's places that will allow them that usually have like $500,000 or plus requirements to invest, that they'll allow certain athletes across the campus to open accounts and really mentor them through this process. So turning what could be a problem or a squandered opportunity into a great thing. And that's what Greg Tarr talked about. It was really cool. And if you are in that boat and you want to know that, and if you want a higher level of all that, visit peakwm.com and check out our man, Nick Hopwood.
Yeah, I definitely do so. I went through this turbulent week in the stock markets actually pretty at peace with kind of what I done. We had volatile swings. We had like the third biggest winning day in the market, followed by losing half of it the next day and then gaining half of that back on Friday. I said I made a few small moves. And I just feel comfortable with that.
Steve's dancing. He's moving. He's bobbing. He's weaving.
But the thing is, I'm doing it because I know who I am now. And I think that's a big part of it, is knowing who you are. What are you comfortable with that. People like Nick help you identify where you are at so that no matter how volatile it gets, and it hasn't gotten much more volatile since COVID. And generally, those are two of the bigger 5 moments that have been going on in the stock market over the last 90 years, close to 100, if you can feel at peace, that's where you kind of want to be.
Yeah.
And there's different outsets and different mindsets. Some people want alpha immediately. Some people just want to be able to relax. And Nick helps identify what kind of person you are, and then we'll put you in a portfolio with some advice and shaping so that you can ride out these wild swings without panicking.
Yeah, and I've been thinking about Nick a lot, and we text, of course, with Nick, and I imagine this is a difficult time for him, but it's also really his time to shine and show his customers the value that he provides and calm everybody down, maybe find opportunities they didn't see. Go to peakwm.com and check out Nick Hopwood, our man, and thank you, Nick, for the support for the entire life of the Professor and the Pundit. We're so grateful.
Not possible without you. All right, speaking of opportunity, you had a chance to speak to people outside a different campus than the University of Michigan. I'm very curious how it all came about and the reception that you got. You went over and did a keynote address at Central Michigan University.
Yeah, so they have a sports management program. Michigan has one too in the School of Kinesiology. They have a sports management program, and they have an annual conference where they bring in teams and industry reps and other platforms that are involved in sports and opportunities for students to find career information, all that stuff. Well, just like any other conference, they have keynote speakers. So I actually kicked off the event Friday at Central Michigan. You asked how I got involved. So a friend of mine is a big shot at the U.S. Olympic Committee, and he happens to have a master's degree from Central Michigan University. And I got to say, he's very humble, but he's kind of helped mentor this whole program and this conference and make it a big thing, right? He supported them in many ways. And they asked about college athletics in the new world, and he knew of what I was teaching, and he was a speaker. He recommended me to them. I had a few good conversations and absolutely went up there. And I got to say, I did share the Professor and the Pundit with them, by the way. So if anyone's listening, I got to say to anyone who has anyone involved with Central Michigan University or is a student there or knows a student, first class, the facility, the students, the respect, the attention, the Q&A, the number of them that showed up. I tweeted out some pictures. It looks like I'm on a big stage at the biggest corporate event, right? Like Steve Jobs. Big props. So what did I talk about? I did my thing. A little history of the NCAA. A little bit of walk-up of how we got in this situation with the athletes' rights and house and all that. And then I shared some advice. I showed him the video of the Mad Professor, by the way, the Frankenstein thing. Time for madness! I use that as a lens to talk about how many opportunities there are for people their age in this new business model that's getting pushed down. It went over really well. We had dinner later.
What did they ask?
Well,
before you get into your special guest,
yeah,
what were they asking?
They asked about the Tennessee kid because that just had hopped the headlines. They asked about Title IX. They asked about the Central Michigans of the world and where do they fit.
Right, because that is a different environment for you. You have been sort of advising regarding teaching with Michigan, and Michigan's on a tier of its own along with some select others. Now you're going to Central Michigan that has a different necessarily mindset, a different purpose, a different sense of reality.
Yes. They asked, bigger picture, is this good? Is this bad? Someone asked about competitive balance, and I said, look, college football's never really had competitive balance. It's never been part of it. There have been teams at the top that have kind of dominated for a long time. It's shifted a little bit, and some teams get a punch in every once in a while, like Indiana last year. But really, the top teams, it's never really been competitive, suggesting that it would ruin it. And there was just great questions like that. Small picture, big picture, tactical, wide, other things on opportunities, which I see so much of because I really think it's underrated. And we have kids their age, Steve, and they have a different eye for branding, for brand partnerships, for ads, what hits, what doesn't, the style of ads that reflect with them, creative. And I think they relate at a different level on the representation side and relationship side with the college athletes, which brings up so many different opportunities. Secondly, they're the ones who understand the businesses they like and can connect with those businesses for opportunity. And remember, the NFL is probably the best run business in the world, but there's only so many teams and players. The scale of college athletics, if you do view this, and athletic departments are viewing this as a business, there's tons of opportunity for young people in this industry, and that's what I shared with them. It was great. So my special guest, should I get to him?
Yeah, it had to have been refreshing to be able to see a completely brand new audience wanting to learn level A stuff.
It was cool. I gotta say, I thought I was gonna be speaking in a cavernous room where everyone was kind of wandering out and drinking coffee and all that kind of stuff. And what it was more like a huge dedicated classroom setting. And I love it because I give myself a little credit, but because I do have an entertaining, I think, way of communicating with people. But they really locked in, and I just a huge salute to CMU. In fact, I left so impressed. I've offered to be back and help in any way I can. So fire up chips. So my special guest, Steve, who was there, there's a guy in the back of the room. He's wearing a T-shirt. He looks like a strength coach or, a parent who's really into sports or something. I think he's got a Chippewa shirt or fire up shirt or something on. Raises his hand, asks me a pointed question about Title IX. I answer it in kind of a long, because it's complicated, because he's really talking about Title IX and revenue sharing, right? And I've expressed my feelings that I think I know Title IX fixed a big problem, but applying that solution to a different problem, I think is wrong. And I don't think that you take that problem and just say, well, it worked over here, which it did, and apply it to a completely different thing that's where athletes were wrong, which is sharing revenue, I think is wrong. And that's the way I explain it to them. So someone tells me after, hey, did you know the head football coach was here? I go, no, that's great. Because I'm thinking how cool that the football coach came to a conference for supporting it, right? I thought he was around.
Right.
He goes, no, he asked you a question. I go, that was the coach? I go, yeah. So it was really cool. I didn't get to meet him. But yeah, Matt Drinkall came from Army. And I assume he was assistant coach at Army. And I didn't really get a chance to connect with him. But maybe I will. But it was really cool. So thanks for asking, Steve. We had a lot of obviously people are interested in NIL, right? And a lot of people have come at me. And I've gotten a lot of referrals to speak to places. I'm going to be speaking in South Haven next month. We'll plug that maybe in our last episode. I'm speaking in Lansing next year. It's already booked at kind of the prestigious Lansing Town Hall, which is a big speaker series. And I've had other interests come out. So if you know someone or a group, more importantly, with a budget that is looking for a speaker, I love doing it. And I do have open dates in the calendar, so a plug for me, I guess. But I really get a lot out of it, Steve, in connecting with people. I really love it. And I tell you, I really think the way I deliver and what I deliver is not only informative, it's entertaining and interesting, and I think people leave really satisfied.
Without a doubt. Trust me on that one. You have some more time coming up because you're about to go through final exams, which means you should have more time to go out and do these engagements.
Yeah, I'm finishing up final exams, and this has been such a weird thing for me. There's been like unexpected things that have happened to me since teaching, and I got to say, one of the strangest things was the first time that I wrote and then kind of announced and then said, you may start the exam, and the room goes completely quiet, and all you hear is this, because they're on their laptops,
right?
The clicking of people typing essays and things, but silent for the next 70 minutes, and I'm just standing there because I'm so used to talking to them and them looking at me. It's just, it's just the strangest feeling. It is weird. And then the other part of it is just the whole like psychology and purpose of exams, which I admit 3 years in, I haven't quite exactly figured out, Steve. Honestly, I am of the belief that once that moment hits where I say, open your, go ahead and start, it doesn't matter anymore because I'm done teaching, right? So I could, in theory, say, open your laptops. I have a surprise. There is no exam, right? What's the point? Like, they've either learned it or not. Now, I guess the question would be, is the test a fair representative of what they've learned? And so I take it from that standpoint. I try to create a test that does that. But inevitably, I haven't gotten away from the fact that I do have to try to trick them to really see if they really understand the concepts and questions at a level where I want them walking around and being able to talk about it. And to do that on a test, you kind of have to trick them. On some, like, you have to put kind of right answers in.
It's one thing to come up with the question.
Some of my students are listening to this. There's going to be no reveals or hacks here. Go ahead.
No, but it might keep them listening. It is one thing to come up with a good question, an important question that needs to be answered. It's completely different to come up with a creative enough multiple choice question where you can get half the room thinking that the wrong answer is the right answer.
Right. And is that the goal? Like, this is where I come back to. Am I trying to trick half the class? You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's a way of separating the A versus the B. If you've got 10 questions,
I have a way for that. Yeah, I do have a way for that. And that's the multi-answer questions. Like, which of these are or are not the right answer? And those are nasty.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the separator.
But think about like Regis Philbin, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Yes.
Okay. When you get into that 125
big Notre Dame fan. Go ahead.
250 level, when they ask the multiple choice question, you need to have the contestant thinking, well, any of these could be really right if you think about it logically. I don't know the answer. It's some sort of trivia, but I start parceling and seeing what could possibly make sense. They're purposely coming up with answers that are at the end of the wrong path, but you could easily take that path that leads to that wrong answer. And I give a thumbs up on people who come up with creative wrong answers.
Yeah, it's tough. And I will say, if most of the class misses a question, like extremely amount, miss, I throw it out because that's on me. That's on me for either writing a bad question or, more importantly, probably didn't teach the point well enough. The other lesson I've made is I do have short answer questions, and if they don't, I ask them for the significance of something, right? Like, tell me why this is important. Why did I care to teach you this? And if they can't do that, like most of them, that is on me. So I've had that, and I've been disappointed with myself. It's on me. If they can't articulate the significance of, say, a particular athletic director and what they did here, I need to do a better job of that. And so I've taken more emphasis on some of those points. So it's cool. There's a little meta stuff. There's a little inside pool for you, Steve.
I want to share a little more inside pool.
Yeah, go ahead.
Courtesy of my son, who is in engineering.
Oof. Is he at a tiny little engineering school, Steve?
No, he's at Purdue.
Have they put people on the moon, Steve?
Yes, they have.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
He told me that there is one professor, he's just finishing up his class, where he advertises the fact, look, I'll give you the choice. If everyone agrees that you don't want to take the final, you don't have to take the final and you'll get an A. Imagine this.
Oh, everyone, though.
Everyone. It says, if you can all agree, none of you have to take the final, and you'll all get an A. And they came up with their votes, and once again, because as the professor explains, it happens every time. You're all taking the final because there's always a few people in the classroom, whether it's 20, 30, whatever,
that want to dance,
that say, you don't deserve the A grade. I do.
Oh,
I know what I'm doing, and it's cheating that you guys are
is
getting
wrong.
Yeah. and they say,
I am not making that offer. I have a feeling how that would go.
Take it. We're making you take the exam.
That is amazing.
That's good story number one.
And then does the professor go, and here are the 3 people that said that?
No, you will not do that. You will not do that.
All right.
Number
I love it, Steve. Very good.
All right, we teased at the beginning of the show that we're recording this Sunday morning, and this may come out in record time for you, the listener, on Sunday afternoon. And why is that, Greg? Because there is something that
and this is completely off our brand, but this is, we started the idea of this podcast. These are things Steve and I talk about at Oscar's Bar and Grill in Saline, and we talk about golf, and especially around times like this. This is something we would talk about, like we were having beers last night. And if you know, you know, and our timing sucks, but we've got, in a few hours, Rory and Bryson are going to tee off in the Masters. We got U.S. versus Europe.
You got PGA versus LIV.
You got old school golf versus science.
You got the Metal Man versus the WWE.
Good versus evil for many. And power on power. Like, it's insane. So the drama here, this is like Magic Bird, like this is nuts. And even if you went Rory Scheffler, which would be amazing, and I don't know that Scheffler's out of it, I'll say, it wouldn't be like this. It wouldn't be like this. And Bryson hits a 50-foot putt at the end of the 3rd round on 18 and then proceeds to basically slap everyone's hand walking up to the clubhouse.
Star Spangled Banner was playing in the background.
And he's won over people through his billions of YouTube followers. And believe me, it doesn't take much to flip a crowd like this. Like, I think more than 80% of the people would have been rooting for, and were rooting for Rory at the beginning of the week. I wonder if it's going to be closer to 50-50. It's going to be nuts. So anyway, you can see I'm excited.
Yeah,
Sorry if we're boring you. We're going to talk about this a little bit.
Let me ask you, Bryson DeChambeau, a guy you would want to have a beer with, what would you have with Rory? A cigar?
I would
bourbon?
Okay, well, let's start with who would I rather hang out with, and it's Rory. Okay. I don't buy DeChambeau.
Okay.
Like, I don't buy his act. There's still something about him that reeks as phony to me. I'm not crazy about the live stuff. Okay, second.
A lot of people aren't.
But I do feel like as one guy, he's kind of demonstrated that he cares about winning in the game more than the money, even though he took the money. Okay, but it's clear. Like, he wants to win. Like, that's clear.
Right.
Not saying the other guys don't want to win. No. He's doing everything he can to win. Like, no matter where he's playing, right?
And Rory's the European who has defended the PGA and has sort of been the spokesperson of golf, defending the PGA, the old guard, but he's represents the union.
And probably, not that he needs it, definitely lost hundreds of $1 million and could have taken hundreds of $1 million to join. Okay.
Americans like the sacrifice.
And again, we're talking about a European. So it's got everything here, right? It's got and of course Rory's on the European Ryder Cup, which we didn't get into. So horrible predictions. Steve, you ready for this? To make me look really stupid. I don't think it's a non-zero chance that Scheffler or Corey Connors emerge from this and somehow win it if the two guys somehow implode or shoot like 73, 74. Very unlikely, but it's possible. Scheffler did it in the Olympics. Like, he's capable. Okay. If Rory wins, I think it all comes down to how he starts both ways. I think if he moves ahead and gets up 2 strokes and gets 4 ahead of Bryson, I think he sails away, he cools down. I think, interestingly enough, I'll give you this take. I think if he has a bad start and Bryson gets ahead, I think that actually favors Rory, because I think he's better as the hunter. And he's going to flip his mindset to go, I got to get this guy down. And he's going to, as Paul McGinley says, he's going to get the pointy elbows and he's going to take him down. Okay. If it's a steady duel, which I think is the most likely happen, I think it's Bryson. I think the weight of the history, the number of chances he has left to win the career Grand Slam is too much on Rory. I read his body language. Everyone thinks he's got it figured out. That's not what I saw in the post-game interviews. I saw a guy with the weight of the world on him about what's going to happen here later today. We will see. I am so excited. No matter what happens, history is going to be made once again at Augusta.
Theoretical question.
Yes.
I don't know how many people think about this, but I always think about it a lot in all sports. You have a small lead. Time is just about running out. So in this golf equation, let's say one player has a one-stroke lead, 2 holes to play. The guy who's trailing, though, appears to have all the momentum. The one guy's got the one-stroke lead, but he's shaky off the tee box. Who do you think wins in these situations? The guy who has got 2 holes left to play, 1 stroke down, and playing the best golf in the moment, or the guy trying to hang on to win the championship, but is ahead with limited time remaining?
I would think the guy who's chasing finds the edge, but statistically, it's probably advantage to have that 1 stroke, but I don't know.
2 of the 3 games in the Final Four says it was the hunter.
Yeah.
That won.
That's where
both involving Houston.
I gotta say, I see no mind lock on Bryson. Maybe it's because if you know him, he's done so much work on calculating every little aspect of golf, things that people have never even thought about, down to the dimples on the golf ball and where they're positioned. I just don't think that is even a factor, like the mental game for him. Outside of all the calculations he's running, he's not even playing that well, which is funny with some of his irons. So Rory's got the most. He's got the most skill. He's the most skilled golfer right now in this moment in this tournament. He should win. We'll see what happens.
This is kind of like me of a matchup, if I can bring it back to Michigan football. It's sort of like the Buckeye, but kind of talks like a Michigan man against a Michigan man who's kind of outside the Michigan ideals and has kind of gone rogue.
Yeah, I know. I think I know exactly what you're talking about here.
Who are you rooting for
know
at this
some
point?
of these people. Yeah, maybe Ty will bring some of these up on his airing of the grievances on the Big Ten 50. Do we have time for things only Steve cares about? Steve?
No, we don't have time for things that I care about, but we do have time for things that only you care about.
All right.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Everybody knows nobody cares.
No one cares.
Nobody cares.
I care.
Then do whatever you want.
All right, Steve. I've seen these, speaking of golf, people wearing them at Augusta. This style of hat, I'll try to describe it, where the name of the team, the slogan, whatever, is not only upside down on the hat, it's backwards. So if you're looking at a hat, right to left has the words Michigan flipped upside down. They're selling them on Fanatics. What's going on with this hat, Steve? Have you seen these? And apparently,
I have seen them.
Did you know there's a greater significance of this?
No, I know of no significance to this. I have my theories, but go ahead.
Someone tweeted at me that the whole idea was during COVID, the world got turned upside down. So they came up with a brand that where the letters, the slogan, whatever, was flipped up, came a little bit of a fashion statement, and it's bled its way into, obviously, big brands. So we're seeing these hats. Maybe I'll put one on the show notes, but yeah, I don't get it. So I only care about it because I'm puzzled by the whole thing.
I think it...
And someone tried to go, yeah, it's for selfies, but no, the words are
exactly.
The letters are literally, yes. Maybe if you were upside down doing a side, I don't know.
No, but anytime you see an Instagram video or reel, it seems like their shirts are worn backwards, and then when they take the film of themselves doing whatever, if they were wearing reverse clothing, maybe it comes out looking regular. For their the influencers, so that when it comes out in their video, it's correct.
Yeah.
The other theory I have is that I think it's just social norms in the fashion industry or in marketing where you just want to be not uniform anymore.
Yeah. You got to keep trying different ways.
I swear there's going to be a day where people will be showing up to work with a white dress shirt, a tie, a vest, but their pants will be long on one leg and completely short, exposing all skin on the other leg. And they'll go into Wall Street looking like that because somebody has to be different.
I love it. Speaking of being different, you're a guy out there, you want to support the American Cancer Society, breast cancer, all that stuff, the Michigan Softball Academy is coming up. It's going to be April 24th at the Hutch. That's a Thursday starting at 5 o'clock. They got an awesome social event. Ira Weintraub from the radio station has the team, the Chest Protectors. I'm on it. I'll be there. I'll actually be in the Home Run Derby, Steve.
Again?
With Dusty May.
Oh, my goodness.
Dusty's going to be there. Consider joining the team, donating, supporting this great cause. If you like sports, you like giving, you like Michigan, meet all the softball players, talk to the coaches, meet Hutch, hang out, have a few pops afterwards at Michigan Stadium up in the Roth Club. So yeah, really good stuff. So
don't strike out, Greg.
Yeah, can I give you the website? It's msoftballacademy.org, one word until .org, msoftballacademy.org, and Ira's team is the Chest Protectors. Yes, that is a double entendre, if you will. The Chest Protectors.
Yes.
Okay,
it's
there you go.
Titling.
I love it. All right, Steve, are we out?
Tell Greg not to strike out, but you will never strike out if you're donating to the American Cancer Society. So with that, go blue, Greg.
Go blue.